I hope everybody's ready. We got stuff to do today. Look at this. Localhost tracking explained it could cost Meta $32 billion. Watch this. Pre-read, even before looking, GDPR. I'm calling it now. GDPR. Let's go. Localhost tracking explained it could cost Meta $32 billion. You just can't finish off Zuckerberg. That's a hell of a subtitle. You know, I've heard of many different subtitles in my lifetime, but that by far is the strangest subtitle I've heard. Dude, bro, there's no happy endings for Zuckerberg. Okay, what happened? Meta devised an ingenious system, localhost tracking, that bypasses Android's sandbox protections to identify you while browsing on your mobile phone, even if you use a VPN, the browser's incognito mode, and refuse or delete cookies in every session. Is that Meta's fault or is that Android's fault? I mean, I understand that Meta's like obviously the bad guy here, but the bad guy used something that seems like it was also available to anybody. Yeah, no, it seems nuts. Next, we preview, we preview what may and should become a combined sanctioning smackdown of the century, and then we explain in simple terms because it's complicated what Meta was doing. It smells like record fine spirit. Is that a phrase that I'm unaware of? Meta faces simultaneous liability under the following regulations listed from the least to most severe: GDPR, DSA, and DMA. Now, I'm not even including the e-privacy directive because it's laughable. Pre-read, yeah, GDPR. Well, come on. Everybody knew. The moment it said the word tracking, everybody knew that. DMA, isn't that just like a drug? Does that mean Zuckerberg's using drugs while breaking GDPR? Does that mean he's actually breaking it? Oh, let's see. This is why exactly I don't install social media apps on my phone. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. No, it's not MDMA. It's just DMA. I'm pretty sure it's the drug. Yeah. That's the dream drug, right? Bro's getting high off people's dreams. Yeah, that's crazy. Just taking all of it. All right. GDPR, DMA, and DSA protect different legal interests, so the penalties under each can be imposed cumulative. The combined theoretical maximum risks amounts to 32. Damn. Euros. That's not even dollars. That's euros. 4% plus 10, 6% plus 10% of Meta's global annual revenue, which surpasses 164 billion in 2024. Maximum fines have never been before been applied simultaneously, but some might say these scoundrels have earned it. Okay, so there's a bit of projection in this article. What does anyone have any other examples of people who have been hit with these fines that are of the same level of? I mean, because I feel like a lot of the tracking that has been happening is of the same level of naughtiness. Just a slight projection, like to think that the maximum from 3 different organizations, as if governments could work together that well. Okay, GDPR will probably charge him. DMA, the dream drug, will probably go off and forget what it's doing, and DSA will probably get bribed underneath the hood. Like, right? I'm just not convinced that all 3 are going to get absolutely full on done. I'm never convinced that things work in tandem like that. Didn't Apple pay a huge fine? Apple's paid some huge fines, but Apple also makes a huge amount of money. And so it's pinned to how much they make. All right. Yeah. If you want to go straight to the breakdown, okay, blah, blah, let's see. Explain it to me. If I were a 5-year-old. Okay, you read, let's see. You're reading zero-party data. Oh, this is the newsletter part. Okay, there we go. What is localhost tracking? Below is a simplified explanation of a very technical process. Rigorous and detailed website set up by the researchers who uncovered Meta's latest research below to the GDPR, to the GDPR specifically and to other regulations more broadly. We'll see. Credit is due where it is. It's ingenious. It's ingenious. Ingenious in the sense of breaking, yet again, the record for privacy-related fine. But hey, it's ingenious. This process through which Meta, Facebook, and Instagram managed to link what you do in a browser, for example, visiting a news site or an online store, with your real identity, your Facebook or Instagram account, even if you've never logged into your account through the browser or anything like that. That's kind of crazy. So I assume it must be because you've installed something onto your phone. Like a lot of Samsungs and a lot of the Android advertising phones come with a lot of this stuff pre-installed. The Meta accomplishes this through 2 invisible channels that exchange information. The Facebook or Instagram app running in the background on your phone, even when you're not using it. Yep, welcome to things running in the background. DMA, DSA, and GDPR are all EU regulations. It'd be like getting prosecuted for 3 adjacent crimes by the government. I assume that does happen. You got to play Rocket League with us. I do enjoy Rocket League. I do, but I enjoy playing it with my kids. Meta's tracking script, the now pulled illegal brainchild uncovered last week, which operates inside your mobile web browser. Thanks to the outstanding human beings who revealed this scandal, Tim Vlumens, Narceo Valina Rodriguez, Nipuna Werasekara, Guns Arkara. Dude, reading names that aren't just like Bob, I am just terrible at. Anaketh Garish. The entire flow of the FB cookie from the web to native and the server is follows. The user opens up a native Facebook or Instagram app, which eventually is sent to the background and creates a background service for listening for incoming traffic on a TCP port 12, and a UDP port, the first unoccupied port in this range. Users might be logged in with their credentials on an app. The user opens a browser and visits the website integrating the metapixel. So it's not just Meta that's causing this, huh? So it's all those mother French fries who are including the social content as well. So it may not just be. I think Meta might even have a case to argue against this. At this stage, the website may ask for consent depending on the website's or the visitor's location. The metapixel script sends the FB cookie to the native Instagram or Facebook app via WebRTC stun SDP munging. Oh, interesting. Okay, so it uses SDP stuff. I recognize all these words individually. It's just that when you put them together in these four together, I don't know what SDP munging means. For those that don't know, SDP is like an old. It's like key value pairs, if I remember correctly. I think there's an @ in there. I can't remember. I think it looks something like key equals value, right? And then I might be incorrect on this one. They use it a lot for any sort of WebRTC or RTP UDP over UDP stuff, right? It stands for Stream Description Protocol. I haven't been playing with it for a while. Munging is a wild word. Well, munging, what I assume they're doing is that, this is my current assumption before reading, is that they're actually sending out the Stream Description Protocol because you notice that they open up a UDP port. They open up a UDP port and then probably try to open up a whole bunch of WebRTC things and send the Stream Description Protocol with the underlying information in the Stream Description Protocol. Yes, SDP allows two UDP points to know where to connect. Well, it's not just that. It says a lot more than that. You can do a lot more than just that. Like one thing that SDP allows you to do is allows you to do fecking. So you can actually open up 4 UDP channels if you really, really want. SDP is not logged in the dev tools. That's why it's used here. Oh, that is so smart. Munging sounds like a sex word. It might be. Okay, so I think we see what's happening here. I'll try to draw it out, right? So you open up Facebook or Instagram right here, right? Facebook or Instagram. Good reason I don't open up any of those. And they start a background service that sits here, and they start a server that listens for both UDP and TCP, right? So there's probably some sort of fallback here, but they listen to some known range right here. Some dumb website that you go and visit, we'll just call it the New York Times, for this matter. Oh gosh, that Y sucks. I went the wrong direction. It has a metapixel, which is a little Facebook script that runs that probably attempts to make a connection across here onto localhost, right? And so this localhost, it will go and it will make connections, and if it hits any of them, it will send over the Stream Description Protocol, and it's able to log all this information. And so that's how it's communicating. That sounds like what's happening here. The metapixel script also sends the FB value in the request. Facebook tier, along with other parameters such as URL, website and browser metadata, and the event type, page view, add to cart, donate, purchase. The Facebook or Instagram apps receive the FB cookie from metapixel JavaScript running on the browser. The app transmits FBP as the GraphQL mutation. Dude, they're even using, dude, okay, now they've gone too far. I think Zuckerberg deserves the full 32 billion. The fact that I'm being tracked is one thing, but being tracked using GraphQL, now that's insulting, okay? That's insulting to my intelligence and my person. Dude, getting zucked. Dude, no happy endings here. Am I wrong, boys? Along with other persistent user identifiers, linking users' FB ID visited website with their Facebook or Instagram account. Okay, I'll explain step by step if you're 5 years old. Okay, step 1, the app is hidden intercom. Okay, the user opens up a native Facebook app. Here, hold on. Is there a, if I'm not mistaken, I just opened up the actual, okay, this looks like the actual, this is what I want to read. All right, let's see. Disclosure. Convert web to app tracking via localhost on Android. As of June 3rd, Meta Facebook Pixel no longer sends any packets or requests to localhost. The code responsible for sending the cookie has been almost completely removed. Dude, that's crazy. They've been caught. They have been caught. We disclosed a novel tracking method by Meta and Yandex, potentially affecting billions of Android users. We found the native app includes Facebook, Instagram, and several other Yandex apps, including Maps and Browser. Silently listening on fixed ports for tracking purposes. These native Android apps receive browsers' metadata, cookies, and commands from Metapixel and Yandex Metrica scripts embedded on thousands of websites. These JavaScript loads users' mobile browsers and silently connect with native apps running on the same device through localhost sockets. As native apps access programmatically device identifiers like the Android advertising ID or handle user identities, as in the case of Meta apps. This method effectively allows these organizations to link mobile browsing sessions and web cookies to user identities, hence de-anonymizing users visiting sites embedding their scripts. By the way, I know, like, all joking aside, I don't know what Yandex Metrica is, but whatever this company is, I do think that they deserve to be put out of business. Okay, I'm going to throw this out here. This stuff is so shady. And, I don't know a lot about life. Okay, I'm just going to be real here. I don't know a lot about life, love, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But but to me, this looks just like Russian. It is Russian, okay? So there is something that's a bit hilarious about the fact, dude, why does it always end like a movie? Why is every single real life event Rocky IV? Why does this end up like Rocky IV every single time? I don't know. Dude, I don't even know. Russian clone of Google. Dude, why do you got to be like that? Why do you got to, if he dies, he dies. Right, exactly. Scripts. Okay, that's crazy. This web-to-app ID sharing method bypasses typical privacy projections such as clearing cookies, incognito mode, and Android's permission control. Worse, it opens the door for potentially malicious apps. Okay, nice. How does this work? Yeah, let's see how this thing works. While there are subtle differences in the way Meta and Yandex bridge web and mobile contexts and identifiers, both of them essentially misuse the unvetted access to local sockets. The Android OS allows any installed app with the internet permission. Hey, bro, can we use the internets? Let's see, to open a socket listening to a loopback interface. Browsers running on the same device access the interface without user consent or platform mediation. Dude, how was this not obviously going to be a world of exploiting right here? How was this not exploitation obvious? I had no idea that you could do that, but it's completely obvious that if you allow for long-running apps and any browser to just open up a local loopback, brother, does this work on Apple? I don't know, that's a good question. Now obvious. Well, I mean, I think it'd be obvious. The thing is, I didn't even know you could open up a loopback address like that. But this seems very, very simple. I'm sure it was a purposeful oversight. Well, it's also kind of crazy that the moment that it's been reported on, it completely disappears and Meta acts like it never happened. Nothing makes you look more guilty than that. Meta should have been like, so what? It's legal, right? What? Browsers running on the same device also access the interface without user consent or platform mediation. This allows JavaScript embedded on web pages to communicate with native Android apps and share identifiers and browsing habits, bridging ephemeral web identifiers to long-lived mobile app IDs using standard web APIs. Nice. Thank you, standard web APIs. That's what I've always wanted. Meta and Facebook Pixel sharing FB cookie. Okay, here we go. The Meta Facebook Pixel JavaScript, when loaded from Android mobile web browser, transmit the first-party cookie using WebRTC to UDP ports. Okay, so this is exactly what we were saying. Okay, so my guess as to what's going on here is right. The only thing I didn't know is that if you just allow the internet permission, which, by the way, I've never once been asked for the internet permission. Right? Does anybody remember this permission being requested? I thought this was just given. Isn't internet permission just on for everything? It's automatic. I feel like internet's on for everything. One would assume that it's automatically granted. All right. We found that Meta owned Android apps, Facebook, including version whatever this is, and Instagram, available in the Play Store, listening on these port ranges. You know, that sucks, huh? Look at those things. Look at those bad boys right there. The Metapixel uses a technique known as STP munging. Okay, I wanted to see what this was just because I was actually really curious about what it is. Not a guide to STP munging. Absolutely ruining LLMs right now. I just wanted to see what it... Let's see. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to read into this. We're going to get completely distracted. Control-Shift-T. It worked that. I must have been pressing something else. My bad. The Pixel uses a technique known as SDP munging to insert the FBP cookie content to the SDP ICE ufrag field, resulting in binding request stun message sent to the loopback address as the following figure shows. The data flow cannot be observed using Chrome's regular debugging tools such as DevTools. How's that not possible? That seems confusing that you can't look at stun requests. The entire flow, I'm just surprised that you can't look at, because it's still data being sent across a UDP port. Like, at the end of the day, I mean, I understand that UDP is not, it's connectionless, and you just kind of shoot stuff. WebRTC is not logged in DevTools for some reason. Oh, okay. ICE ufrag. Yeah, sounds like an FPS kill announcement. It does. ICE ufrag. Frag. You need Wireshark to debug. That's crazy. All right, the entire flow of the FB cookie from web to native and server is as follows. The user opens the native Facebook or Instagram app, which eventually is sent to the background and creates a background service listing for incoming traffic. All right, we knew that. The user opens their browser and visits the website integrating the metapixel. At this stage, websites may ask for consent depending on the website's websites and visitors' location. The metapixel script sends. I wonder what it means by consent. I did, as when I went over to the GDPR land, when I was in Amsterdam or Rotterdam, whenever I did anything on my phone, I got hit with those cookie banners. So I assume that's what they mean, but that can't be what they mean. The metapixel script sends the FBP cookie to the native Instagram and Facebook app by a stun munging, all right, or SDP munging. The pixel also sends the value in the request, along with other parameters such as page URL, website and browser metadata, all that stuff. The Facebook or Instagram app receives the cookie from the metapixel JavaScript running in the browser. The app transmits this as GraphQL. Okay, so we've seen all this. Okay, so this is their little. Let's look at this. Okay, yeah. So this is interesting. So it actually sends it as a stun attribute. Okay. Oh, then it just sends it as a regular ass request. So they're just tracking you even in the open. Okay, so I actually think this is a lot less nefarious than it was. Right, this is a lot less nefarious than it was. I thought at first it was just like, yes, we're so hidden. We're gonna be able to just get away with this. No one's gonna know what we're doing. And then instead it's just like, nah, they just did it. They just did it both ways. They're just like, we just want the data. I want to take your data, and I don't care what you have to say. The end. Cool. Okay. Very lovely. Around May 17th, Metapixel added a new method to the script that sends the cookie using stun turn instead of stun, or WebRTC turn. I don't know what turn is, instead of stun. The new turn method avoids SDP munging, which Chrome developers publicly announced to disable following our disclosure. As of June 2nd, we have not observed the Facebook or Instagram applications actively listening on these new ports. According to the Meta Cookies policy, the FBP cookie identifies browsers for the purpose of providing advertising and site analytics services and has a lifespan of 90 days. The cookie is presented on approximately 25% of the top million websites, making it the third most common first-party cookie of the web, according to Web Almanac 2024. Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad. See, I do think that we put a lot of onus and a lot of like, hey, you know what's really naughty? Facebook doing all this tracking. But I also have to look at this and look at the other side, which is the top million websites, 25% of them are also opting into tracking you. What do they get out of it? They get ad money, I assume? Better ads for your ass? So they get ad revenue. I'm wondering why my phone thinks it's okay to pre-install all this shit without my permission. Yeah, I know. I know people always make fun of the Freedom Phone, but one day I do hope there's actually a Freedom Phone, one that is just literally Android without all the tracking crap, because Google is probably doing some deep nefarious stuff as well. Okay, because I put half the blame on Facebook, but I also put the blame on other people as well. This wouldn't be a problem if people also, if the 25% of the million websites also aren't flooding you with this. I also can't feel too bad for the top 25% of websites for doing that, because at the end of the day, they're just trying to survive and make money. So they're, the Wall Street Journal or whatever it is just trying to make some extra money. Right? When you go there, there's like 19 ads. They're dying. And so it's just like they're just trying to make money, right? Tracking implies the sites are looking at your dick pics, though. Most of the sites want you to know if you press purchase or not. True. All right. True. First-party cookies implies that it cannot be used to track users across websites, as it sets under the website's domain. That means the same user has a different FBP cookies on different websites. However, this method we disclose allows the linking of different cookies to the same user, which bypasses existing protections and run counter to user expectations. Is this surprising at all? What I'm really surprised is that people thought that by having first-party cookies implies that they cannot be tracked across user websites. You think that you do know that those cookies are sent to servers. Like, of course it's going to happen. Yandex using localhost communication since 2017. Nice. Yandex Metrica script initiates an HTTP request with the long and opaque parameters to localhost through specific TCP ports. Our investigation reveals that Yandex-owned applications such as Yandex Maps and Yandex Navigator and Yandex Search and Yandex Browser actively listens to these ports. Furthermore, our analysis indicates that the domain yandexmetrica.com is resolving to the loopback address that the Yandex Metrica script transmits data via HTTPS to the local ports right here. This design choice obfuscates the data exfiltration process, thereby complicating conventional detection mechanisms. By the way, it is a bit weird that the previous article made it sound like Facebook and Yandex were working together, whereas this is just saying, hey, Yandex does TCP, Facebook does UDP. Facebook uses the more advanced one. How does an HTTPS domain resolve to localhost? Well, yeah, I mean that's a good question. They have to start a signed server. So effectively, if you have any app running, you can start a server. So it just starts a server, and it's a signed server that can take in those requests. You just have to have access to keys. That means some sort of keys have to come down. My assumption is within the app, right? You have to have your whatever the two keys are called. Dude, I start an HTTP server once in a blue moon. Imagine these operating systems having something much scarier than this vulnerability. Oh, I'm sure they do, right? They share visitor data. This is the only way. Yeah. But it's crazy because you only have to hide the traffic. Yeah, you only have to hide the traffic. Let's see. It is kind of wild that they're just doing this right here. Look at that. Yandex apps contact the Yandex domain to retrieve a list of ports to listen to. The endpoint returns a JSON containing local ports. And first delay seconds parameter, which we believe is used to delay the initiation of the service. On one of our test devices, the first delay seconds roughly corresponds to the number of seconds it took for Yandex app to begin listening on the localhost port in the last 3 days. After receiving the localhost HTTP requests from the Yandex Metrica script, the mobile app responds with the base 64 encoded binary payload embedding the bridging the Android advertising ID along with other identifiers accessible from Java APIs like Google's advertising ID and UUIDs, potentially Yandex specific, as opposed to Metapixel's case. All this information is aggregated and uploaded together to the Yandex Metrica server. Oh, nice. They don't even try to hide it. By the JavaScript code running on the web browser rather than the native app. In the case of Yandex, the native app acts as a proxy to collect the Android-specific identifiers and transfer them back to the browser. That's funny. So Yandex doesn't even try to hide it. They just go full on. They're just like, yeah, if you visit a website, we're just going to throw it all up there. You're going to get everything. Nice. Very cool. I'm very happy about that. I think starting a local server might need to be a permission. You know what I mean? Let's see. What is the most memory you have seen Chrome use? All of it. They're kind of a monopoly in Russia. Oh, okay. Oh no, Visual Studio crashed again. Who could have seen this coming? Yeah, that happens. All right, the entire flow of Yandex communication from web to native and the server is as follows. The user opens one of the native Yandex apps, which eventually is sent to the background. Okay, so it's the exact same thing. It opens up, except for it opens up HTTP ports, not even close to trying to hide it. The user opens up their browser. They visit the exact same pixel comes down. It does this exact same thing, throwing down a bunch of stuff. Okay, so it's like literally the exact same thing. Okay, wow. All right, Yandex. Additional risk, browsing history leak. Using HTTP request to web to native ID sharing may expose users' browser history to third parties. A malicious third-party Android application that also listens on the aforementioned ports can intercept the HTTP request by Yandex Metrica script and the first now unused implementation of Meta's communication channel by monitoring the origin HTTP header. Okay, I'm a bit confused on this one. So what they're saying is that because they open up on potentially multiple ports, that if somebody else beats them to the punch, they're able to get this information. Is that what they're saying? Is that there's some other app that knows that there could be these? And so, oh, dude, that's even funnier. That's even funnier. So they're saying that because you can't have two applications listening to the same port. One application is going to get that port, and so they're all attempting to race to the port wars. Yeah, this is literally port wars. They're all racing to the port, and whoever gets there first gets the cookies, gets the data. Okay, nice. We developed a proof of concept app to demonstrate the feasibility of this browsing history harvesting by malicious third-party apps. We found that browsers such as Chrome, Firefox, and Edge are susceptible to this form of browsing history leakage in both default and private browsing modes. Brave browser was unaffected by this issue due to the block list and the blocking of requests to localhost, and DuckDuckGo was only minimally affected due to its missing domains in their block list. While the possibility for other apps to listen to these ports exists, we have not observed any other app not owned by Meta or Yandex listening to these ports. Okay, so it's really just those two ports. I mean, it makes sense. Like if you, I would be a bit confused if a browser does not allow for local for local host requesting. I mean, Brave doesn't allow for it, but it's also a pain in the ass. It's one of those things that I'm always so sick of Brave with, which is like I have to constantly re-enable so many things with Brave. I find it to be very annoying. Brave is Chromium, right? Brave is Chromium, but it obviously adds a bunch of extra sauce on top. Due to Yandex and HP requests for its localhost communication, any app listening to the required ports can monitor the website visited with these traffic capabilities and demonstrate by the video above. Oh, there's a video? Oh, it is a video. All right, there you go. Websites have been visited. Now it's going to go. Let's see. I want to see this. Play games. Playmods.net. Nice. Playmods.net. Opera. Nice. Look at that. Look at that thing go. Okay. Very traffic stealing. Oh, wow. Look at that. We're fully in private zone. We're going to go to some crazy URL. Havad Derima. I don't know what that means. Looks German to me. I have no idea. Okay, that didn't seem to show up. I don't see that thing showing up. Uh-oh, the gay bingo. Uh-oh, bros on the gay bingo. It's Turkish. Oh, it's Turkish. Look at this. Gay bingo. Caught. Okay, caught red-handed. According to the Built With, a website that tracks web technologies, Metapixel is embedded on 5.8 million websites. Yandex Metrica, on the other hand, is presented on close to 3 million websites. According to the HB Archive, on an open and public data set that runs monthly crawls of 16 million websites, Metapixel and Yandex Metrica are present on 2.4 million and 575,000 websites, respectively. Wow, that's kind of crazy. That's a lot of stealing that it does. I don't recognize any of these. Tubity Social. I don't know any of these, right? Crazy. Okay. I think we understand these things. Let's see. When did this start? Yeah, I'm curious when this started. So February. Wow. Okay. So Meta only recently started doing this. Meta started doing this last year. They haven't even been doing it for a year. Okay. So they just have no excuse. They just decided they're going to break some rules. Like somebody is definitely breaking some rules here. Yeah, I do. I actually, you know what? This previous article talking about how they're going to, that they could get absolutely crushed by DMA, GDPR, and DSA. By the way, I've never even heard of DMA and DSA. These are other European organizations, apparently. I hope that people do get absolutely obliterated by this. Digital Marketing Authority. Okay. Digital Service Act. Okay. My guess is that they probably won't get all three of them. But I'd love to see Facebook absolutely dominated by these things. Not because I'm rooting for the downfall of Facebook. I'm not someone that's against the downfall of Facebook. I'm just really against this. I'm just pretty sick of consistent tracking and advertising. I really think you should be able to opt in. And it seems massively ridiculous that they knew what was going on and they did it anyways, right? You're rooting for the downfall. I don't root for the downfall of things. That's not really my style of rooting. I'm more rooting for the upswing of consumer rights, if that makes sense. You're not against that. I'm not for the downfall of it. I'm for consumer rights. I want good privacy. I'm rooting for you guys. Because here's the deal. Let's just pretend Facebook falls and they get sued so bad that the company literally has to shut down. Another company is going to just jump in and do something probably similar. They're going to find another way to do this, right? There's nothing about it that somehow it's not changing what I want, right? I don't want the downfall of a company. I want the uplifting of consumer rights. I do want the right to repair. I do want the ability to I really hate the fact that Steam can sell a game and then that game can be taken from you and you press a buy button, right? Like now there's one thing that if you pressed a button that said the word rent, right? If it said the word rent and you knew what you were getting into and then you could make a logical decision on whether or not to rent the game, then I'd be fine with it, because then at least you know what you're getting and they know what they're getting. But it's kind of ridiculous. No way in hell they get 32 billion, maybe less than $1 billion. Yeah, my guess is that they'll get nothing, because at the end of the day, I'm not quite convinced any of these big organizations, GDPR, all this, they're actually in favor of serving the consumer. Again, this is just me with my massive, I think the government is an inept, slow, and or corrupt, right? Like there's only three possible conclusions, which is that the government's so big and so filled with bureaucracy that it's unable to operate. It's so stupid it's unable to operate, or it's so corrupt it's unable to operate. Right? I actually don't think it has any other ability. Right? Maybe all three. Maybe all three. Stupid, red-taped, and corrupt. Right? All of the above. I think GDPR is really good limiting European tech innovation. Is really good at limiting European tech innovation. I think it doesn't help, but it also help. In some sense, I'm happy about GDPR. I'm glad that there's at least a movement, because it did make Netflix had to have personal identifiable information not being logged. They had to take out things. They had to try to clean up how things were happening. Like, they actually tried to make things better, which to me is really nice. So I'm like, okay, hey, at least there's a there. They're doing something better with life, because it's making companies around to do something. I fundamentally disagree, but I don't think we're going to have a meaningful conversation on Twitch chat. Disagree with which part? I'm actually curious. Which part do you disagree with? EU has been impressive at getting improvements to reach consumer. Yeah, they've done something. At least that's good. Having put safety rails on bridges really limits the bridge building innovations. I don't think that's what people are saying. There's not all things are a positive, right? GDPR has the perception problem. Many people see it as a negative for some reason. Well, I am net pro GDPR. I would want to understand more about GDPR. My only understanding is you can't have personal identifiable information in some capacity. And I know there's like an 18-month window. At least one point there was an 18-month window. I think there's a 90-day window, and I think there's various things with the personal identifiable information, which I think is actually a pretty great thing. I disagree with your outlook that there's only 3 outcomes of government that you described. Well, it's the eventuality. I think when things start, I always think that there's good people that are actually attempting to do good things, but it's just like anytime there's a good king, you don't have a guarantee that the next one's good. The right to be forgotten. The right to be forgotten, I think, is actually a really positive thing. I would love to find out if this is actually upheld. I would love to know if the right to be forgotten is actually real. Well, let's see. Would you take an advantage of this vulnerability to earn a shit ton of money? No, I mean, I personally wouldn't. But, I also don't have the opportunity. I think a lot of people who stand on moral high grounds and say, oh, I would never do all these things, they also don't stand to make millions upon millions of dollars, and haven't been for the last perhaps a decade being told, being given lots of money, lots of notoriety, lots of high fives, and then being pressured by a board, right? Like, there's a lot of things that I think that it's super easy to demonize people that do this, not realizing it's not like some dude just walked off the street and is like, hey, let's screw some people. It's more like this is a slow-moving process that somebody eventually becomes corrupted over the time of, 10 years. This is not quite the same thing. I'm not excusing the behavior, but I think it's not as simple as people say. People always have it as something that's really simple. So you're closer to God. I don't think I'm closer to God by any stretch of the imagination. I think I'm just as corrupt as anybody else. The difference between me and somebody who's broken these rules, the difference is time and circumstances. I don't consider myself some holier than thou person, right? I am truly just as susceptible as anybody else to corruption. I'm not stupid. There's a reason why when I go out to big things, big events now, I don't drink a lot. Because I'm like, oh, I would never make a bad decision because I'm drunk. It's because I don't want to put myself into a situation in which I have the opportunity to make a bad decision, right? Because I know myself, right? It's a completely different situation, right? Yes, exactly. You know what I'm trying to say, Allie, right? Like you don't put yourself into situations. There's always this argument. I forget who it was who made this argument, but it's this idea like you get posed with the hypothetical, and the answer should be, well, I will never be in that hypothetical because I'm never going to make those decisions to get there. If I make those decisions to get there, I've already screwed up. I've already long effed up the entire thing, right? So, anyways, I mean, that's why I root for consumer products and I don't root for the downfall, is because I'm there's this concept. G.K. Chesterton has this really cool concept called the second fall of man. He argues that the first fall of man is when man went from knowing only good to knowing good and evil, and the second fall of man is knowing only evil. And you can see this in our language. And he gives this really cool example about two people getting cured from alcoholism, and one of them gets cured from alcoholism by becoming religious and wanting the good out of life and becoming the best man possible. And the other one gets cured from alcoholism by not wanting to be unhealthy, to avoid dying early, to avoid all these kind of negative aspects. And he argues that we are slowly becoming a group of people who only do things based on the negative, not a group of people who do things on the good and are pursuing good things, but instead pursuing not having bad things. And so we're having this second fall, right? And so I want to avoid the second fall, if that makes sense. I want to focus on the good, right? I want to focus on the blah, blah, blah. Okay, anyways, whatever, shut up. You can just go screw off. Bye. Bye. Thank you. The name is the Primogen.